For the newly launched mobile app CBP Home, immigrants can signal their intent to leave the U.S. by uploading a photo and providing details about their country of origin and their planned destination. The app is the latest deportation effort by the Trump administration to try to get undocumented people to self-deport.
I'm curious as to whether they were considering CBP Go Home, because that's what it feels like.
Immigration attorney Darius Amiri has defended hundreds of clients from deportation and says he's skeptical about the app.
Hey, if you register here, if you provide this information, there's a very real likelihood it will be used to track you down, come to your home, detain you, deport you, even if the stated purpose is for the person to leave on their own terms.
The Biden administration introduced the CBP One app in 2023, allowing migrants to schedule appointments at ports of entry. It's estimated that over 900,000 people successfully scheduled an appointment. Amiri believes CBP One served its purpose.
Let's have people wait in an orderly fashion and show up when they're scheduled to show up and make it easier in the system. And I think by canceling it, if anything, they're only overburdening an already burdened systems.
DHS officials say the CBP One app that's been downloaded by thousands of migrants will automatically update to CBP Home. But it raises the question of whether people will actually use it.
The typical immigrant comes here because they're either forced to leave their country, they're a refugee.
In a statement, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem said that individuals who self-deport may still have a chance to return in the future. Otherwise, they will be permanently removed. As the Trump administration touts incentives for self-deportation,
I don't anticipate any kind of a pathway from this administration.
Amiri also highlighted something called the 10-year bar. It's a law that prevents people from re-entering the U.S. for 10 years if they've been unlawfully present in the U.S. for over a year. Now, he says people who decide to self-deport would also be subject to this law. Reporting live from Yuma, Alexandra Angel, Arizona's Family.
Howdy, y'all. This is Paul, the Redneck Thinker. What we have here is a channel to communicate. I want you folks to be thinking by the time you leave my videos. Why? Because I'm tired of people talking via what other people tell them to think. So, watch my video and enjoy the chance to think for yourself.
Let's talk about the CBP One. Customs and Border Patrol One. It's an app that you just heard about that allowed illegal immigrants easier access to this country. Now, there was a recent hearing headed by Nancy Mace. I'm going to do two of the question sessions, one with Nancy Mace, one with Lauren Boebert. And these two question sessions are quite informative. This first one that I'm going to get to will allow you to hear two things. One, how it was used, or how information has been used to hurt the ability of ICE to get rid of these criminals that are in this country. And two, how the CBP One was used to destroy us from the inside, because this was used by the cartels. They were profiting off of it. So let's get into this. Also, if you want to hear about government corruption, if you want to hear what the government's doing, hey, you got a channel right here. Hit like, hit subscribe. We're going to cover all of these issues and make sure that it keeps in our spotlight. And also, I'm eventually wanting to, once I get enough people and everything, I'm wanting to get this to the point that I'm interviewing government officials, politicians, and the like, so you have a chance to hear what they have to say. And also, I'll be getting you the chance to have the questions. So, let's go.
I will now recognize myself for 5 minutes of questions. A couple of weeks ago, I went on my first ICE raid, and I got to see ICE and Homeland Security and other agencies and agents come together, different field offices come together to find this guy who, a week prior, had like a brick of fentanyl or a portion of a brick, enough to kill 1,000 people. It was a lot. But one of the things that I learned there was that in the Biden administration, those agencies weren't actually able to work together. They weren't allowed to do that work together to deport those who are here illegally. And I learned a lot during that. But Dr. Gilmore, I want to ask you my first question. Something struck me in your testimony this morning. You're talking about restrictions on data. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Some examples, like I guess it was maybe biometric data. There are restrictions on data you can utilize or...
Yeah, so we have advanced technologies, facial recognition technology, pattern matching technology that could be used to solve a vast array of crime, and can be used to identify victims of crime, especially minor victims of child sexual abuse material, human trafficking victims, that type of thing, who often live in the shadows, right? But that technology is so tightly controlled out of fear of privacy that it's only used in a very small percentage of cases. There's been a lot of fear that has been allowed to grow around that technology, I think often by people who don't really understand the technology and don't understand the fact that we can utilize that technology while also putting in proper safeguards to protect privacy, ethics, and civil rights.
And silos, some examples of silos that you mentioned.
Again, a lot of that technology is siloed into different components or divisions. It's not rolled out through an enterprise solution to the agency. Different components within DHS, our systems don't talk to each other. We have a hard enough time talking between HSI and ERO, between our systems, much less bringing in CBP, TSA, Border Patrol. And when that data is siloed within those particular components, it's very easy to miss things because you can't access the data and operationalize that data.
And then my next question is really for everyone. Can you speak to how the Biden administration used technology to facilitate the invasion of illegal aliens into the country?
Yes, ma'am. For one, CBP One app, I believe, was definitely misused by the Biden administration to allow people to come in. And that was one technology that was developed out of something that it shouldn't have been used for. I think it was a go-around around Congress to allow people to enter the United States. And we've seen a lot of those cases that have entered on the CBP One app show up as criminal aliens, in the arrests that we've made.
How's the app used?
How is it used?
Yeah, how's it used to do that?
Well, what we've seen, especially the fraud from that, is that the cartels were actually using it down in Mexico and having people sign up through them to then get on the CBP One app and get around, being able to go through. So the cartels were actually making money off of the CBP One app.
That's insane. Dr. Gilman?
Yeah, I echo everything that my counterpart just said. I don't have as much experience with the CBP One app, particularly because my focus was with HSI and primarily on criminal investigations. But even within HSI, we saw the misuse of the CBP One app by those subjects that we did encounter, oftentimes subjects of criminal investigations.
The cartels using CB One app to get people into this country illegally. And we know this. We know this, and we allowed it to happen. Mr. Hanklinson?
In terms of numbers, that nothing is more extreme than CBP One. There was also the programs for specific countries, which obviously had to use technology to enroll people in the first place. There was a lot of diversion or there was some diversion of ICE money to programs like the case management pilot program and the young adult case management program, I think it was, that were essentially providing social services instead of enforcement operations, and I'm sure that had to be facilitated by the use of the technology that they had.
I'm certain that they did. Thank you. I will now yield 5.
Now, you heard all of this. You heard that the cartels were using this as a way to make money and to bring in people that most likely should not have been in this country. You heard how different government agencies are hurting ICE's ability to find these criminals, get rid of these people that hurt American citizens. So now Lauren Boebert has a few questions to ask. And at the end of it, all of this is some pertinent information, but at the end of it, you're going to hear how they are changing this. And as you heard at the beginning clip, how this is being used for these folks to be able to self-deport. Now, this is something that liberals can't stand, as you heard from the beginning clip. So, let's get into this real quick.
Thank you. I'll now recognize Representative Boebert for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you so much to our witnesses here who came to testify on border policies and technologies. I was excited to see President Trump put out a post, a truth on Truth Social, that said the month of February, my first full month in office, had the lowest number of illegal immigrants trying to enter our country in history by far. There were only 8,326 apprehensions of illegals by Border Patrol at the U.S.-Mexico border, all of whom were quickly ejected from our nation or, when necessary, prosecuted for crimes against the United States of America. This means that very few people came. The invasion of our country is over. In comparison, under Joe Biden, there were 300,000 illegals crossing in 1 month, and virtually all of them were released into our country. Thanks to the Trump administration policies, the border is closed to all illegal aliens, immigrants is what he put. Anyone who tries to illegally enter the USA will face significant criminal penalties and immediate deportation. I think the President Trump and his team, Secretary Noem and Border Czar Tom Homan, have done a fantastic job of turning chaos at our southern border into control. Mr. Fabricatore, welcome from the great state of Colorado. I wanted to ask you some questions about Colorado's sanctuary policies that prevent ICE from coordinating with local law enforcement agents, and maybe how that had an impact on the Tren de Aragua presence that we saw in Aurora.
Thank you, ma'am. So yes, the sanctuary policies in the state of Colorado, as you know, there's been many that have been passed since 2013 that limit cooperation with Immigration Customs Enforcement, and that even limits the amount of data that ICE is allowed to get. This includes DMV records, the State Department of Labor. So this keeps ICE from being able to identify criminal illegal aliens easily and go out on the street and arrest them. When you have those limitations, that's when you're going to see an increase in crime like we saw with Tren de Aragua over the last couple of months, because ICE just simply is not getting the data that's necessary to be able to target these criminal illegal aliens and remove them from the streets quickly.
Yes, and do you believe that using modern tracking technology would have helped secure our border and even our cities in the state of Colorado?
It definitely would have helped. It's something that the ERO officers need in order to be able to facilitate making arrests quickly, which is what we want to do. We don't want to give illegal criminal aliens an opportunity to commit more crimes in the U.S. We want to arrest them as quickly as we can.
Yes, and so with the CBP One app and discussing improvements to the app, do you think that there's a possibility for self-deportation, some sort of incentive to self-deport using the app and arrive at a location to get a one-way ticket home?
If we can use the app to enter, we can use that app to exit. So absolutely, we can develop that technology to allow people to self-deport. And that way families don't have to be separated. Right. They can go right through the CBP One app, they can get on the app, they can do an exit, we can have that information readily available, and they can self-deport.
Thank you. And Mr. Fabricatore, under the failed Biden regime, how many criminal illegal aliens were able to evade ICE apprehensions because you were all restricted from using the right tools and technologies and authorities?
So thousands, I mean, and millions even. I mean, we have 1.4 million on the non-detained docket of final orders right now, which, you know, they went and saw an immigration judge, immigration judge said, you must leave. And they even defied an immigration judge's order. So these cases are stacking up. It's something that needs to be taken care of, and under this administration it will be.
And Mr. Fabricatory, the Biden administration focused on reducing detention rates rather than increasing surveillance. Hundreds of heinous acts were committed by violent criminal aliens. Do you think that reducing detention rates rather than increasing surveillance makes our borders more or less safe, secure?
No, we need an increased detention rate, absolutely. I think we're at 41,000 beds right now. I know President Trump would like to double, if not even have more, up to 100,000 beds. This is what we need. In order to have the deportation process be successful, we need those beds in place.
Thank you. And I'm certainly proud of the initiative that President Trump has put forward. And like I said, Borders are Tom Homan, and I know that you have worked with him in the past, and I hope to see you alongside him in the future as well. And we have Secretary Noem doing a great job. And Mr. Fabricatory, if you got 5 seconds that you want to say something, it's yours.
Thank you. Yes, we need this technology. ERO needs this technology. They need the money, and they need the beds.
Thank you, Mr. Fabricatory.
Thank you.
Now, all of this information, some of this has already been out there. Some of this is new information. But we are finding out how this is affecting the American people. We're finding out how Joe Biden, his administration, how it hurt the American people, how it was used for criminal purposes, how state governments are helping on the state level to hurt American citizens. That's something that needs to be talked about every day, all day until it ends. We need to get rid of these state governments that constantly allow these people that harm American citizens. And we're not just talking, direct harm. We're talking the human trafficking. We're talking the drug trade. We're talking about all of this evil that is coming through this border. Now, if you don't mind to hit a like down there, if you like the video, I'll know what people want to hear. This has been Paul, the Redneck Thinker. Y'all have a good day now. Bye. So, folks, that's the story that I wanted to bring you on this video. And I just wanted to say thank you again for coming by. Hit like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff if you don't mind. Help me out. So, y'all have a good day now. Bye.